name is Brian Varela, and I'm running to unseat Tom King Jr. And I really want to thank you all for creating a space here where I have the chance to present myself and chat through policy and take questions and share a little bit about my background. One of the things about me is I really try to make this light. I try to make it fun. I will be sharing with you a little bit about my life story, some of the things that have gotten us to this point, and then what I plan to do in the future. So let's dive into it. I am a first-generation Colombian American. My parents immigrated from Colombia, obviously, and I grew up very much blue-collar. At any point in life, my dad was a janitor, a salesman, a valet, a chef, eventually became a truck driver. My mom worked at a factory. She was a hostess, a waitress. But my parents did something that feels kind of impossible these days. With these blue-collar jobs, they were able to save money. They were able to buy a house. They started a business together. They made a lot of sacrifices to build a better life for my brother and I. And we did it. We reached the American dream. The American dream that feels very much out of hand for a lot of people these days. And life was good for a while until the Great Recession. Who remembers that? So my parents, like most people in this country, were really affected by the Great Recession. Their business took a pretty big drop. They didn't go out of business, but things got a little bit tighter around the house. And coincidentally, that happened to be as I was going to college. And in my family, one of the things that I learned early on is that in this wonderful country of ours, one of the strongest vehicles for social mobility is a good education. So I knew that I had no choice. I had to go to college. So I did. I got a full-time job. I worked full-time while I went to school full-time. I finished in 3.5 years. I graduated with honors. Later on in life, I went on to get my MBA from UNC, and I'm working on a second master's now in international relations from Seton Hall. But one of the other things that really enabled college for me is that I am a proud beneficiary of Pell Grants. And that's why for me, it is a personal attack when we've got an administration that is gutting the Department of Education and that is slashing the same programs that gave me the opportunities to be where I am today. We know that when it comes to this country and people in this country, access to a good education is not only what's right, but it's actually what's in our best collective interest, right? I am a big believer, because of my experience, I'm a big believer in opening channels for access to education, whether it's facilitating access to capital, right? But not just stopping at the 4-year degrees. The truth is, we've got a lot of folks that are starting to retire. People that are in plumbing and HVAC and roofers. And I've got news for you. We're going to have to backfill those jobs because AI is not going to do it, thankfully. And so I don't think we stop just with opening up access to 4-year degrees. I think the same options that we give people that are searching for traditional degrees, we open that up to folks where maybe college isn't for them. Maybe it's a trade school, but ultimately that's what's not just right as far as equal opportunity for everyone, but that's also what's in the best interest of our economy, right? To make sure that everyone is able to move into something that is natural to them. So after college, I'm ready. I'm a young professional. I get my corporate job. I'm ready to live my young mid-20s life. It's so cool. I watched all the movies, all those rom-coms from back then. Just showed all these young people doing really cool stuff. They'd work their 8 to 5, and then they'd go out to the city for drinks. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do all that stuff, right? And unfortunately, life had different plans for me. As we know, there's that old saying, man plans and God laughs. Well, in that instance, about a month after I started my corporate career, my mom was unfortunately diagnosed with cancer. And my parents had their business, and they never recovered from the Great Recession. But once my mom got sick, my parents went completely out of business. And being the close family that we are and were, I stepped up. So at 22 years old, I became my family's breadwinner. I learned firsthand, like a lot of people in this country, what it's like to be behind on your mortgage and to be behind on your credit card payments and your car payments. And it took a while, but I'm proud to say that I was able to save my childhood home from foreclosure. And we were okay, but that experience brought my attention to something. I was able to step up for my family. But how many families are out there that don't have someone that can do that? How many families are out there that are at the brink of bankruptcy, or are declaring bankruptcy, or are losing their home because they live in a country with a broken healthcare system? It's one of the reasons that I'm a big proponent of Medicare for all, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. 2 years after my mom's diagnosis, like a lot of families in our country, we lost the battle. My mom passed. And my parents were very close. My parents, I joke around that my dad couldn't tie his shoe without my mom. And so when my mom passed, my dad was left in shambles. To this day, he's still, you guys know what that's like. And my dad ended up moving back to Colombia, which I encouraged, because that's what he needed. But as I mentioned, I've got a younger brother who was 13 at the time. And so life threw a new challenge. Raising a teenager. All right. And you know what? 13 and 14 and 15 were fine, but 16 and 17 and 18, a little harder. And that experience taught me quite a few things. One of the very first things it taught me is that it is possible. It is possible to love someone with your entire being, and at the same time, you want to kick them out a window. And if you raise teenagers, you probably know what I mean. But no, my brother's doing great. We got through that okay. My brother now has an amazing girlfriend who puts up with him, so let's send her a lot of good energy. We like her, we need her, right? Stay with them. No, they're great. I think they're going to get married. And everything worked out. But through that experience, I got a little bit more of a closer look at what it's like to hold down the full-time job and work hard and try to keep up with the bills and at the same time raise a teenager. And that was hard. It was very hard. And it was hard back then. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like right now. Because as tight as we were, the economy is nothing like it was back then. And I can only feel for the families that are in those positions where the cost of housing is up, where the cost of energy is up, where they're cutting the same programs that are meant to narrow the wealth gap, whether it's rolling back the ACA subsidies and attacking healthcare, whether it's trying to attack Social Security, SNAP. I mean, these are the programs that a lot of these working class and even middle class families depend on. Parents who are lying awake at night wondering how they're going to save. They're not saving for their kids' college. How are they going to give them access to that education? We're seeing an attack on people's financial ability to be able to provide an education, or for kids to be able to get there. And so it's a big reason why affordability for me is at the top of the list, because affordability hits so many different aspects of our lives, right? It's not just salaries and payroll. It's also how people are evolving, how our families are thriving, right? So we get through that. And in my 20s, I was always inclined toward entrepreneurship. I remember in my corporate life how I used to I used to have to start working at 8, and sometimes I'd get in at 6:30, and I would go and read all this entrepreneurial stuff that I really liked. And one of the publications I would read was Inc. magazine. And they had this list. It was really cool. It was like a list of like the fastest growing companies in the country. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome to like be able to do that. And so anyway, eventually I finally have a chance to go into business for myself. And so if you ever need investment advice, come find me. I'm really good at timing. Because in December of 2019, I put my life savings into a childcare center. In December of 2019,
just before
I put my life savings into a childcare center. 3 months later, we were shut down. But no, it has a happy ending. I was able to eventually reopen. Fast forward to now, I have built one of the fastest growing companies in the country. I was named Executive of the Year by New Jersey Business Magazine. I'm on the NJ Biz Power 50 list for education, and I'm on the Inc. 5000. That same magazine that I used to read, my company is one of the fastest growing companies in the country. And we've done that now 2 years in a row. So I've had a lot of success. And then eventually I made my way into this world. And my initial entrance to this was being exposed to a lot of the opportunities in our democracy. I realized that while our country is the greatest country in the world, and we've got a democracy and all that, there's room for improvement, and it's pretty significant room. And so for starters, ranked choice voting is something that I learned about, and that made a lot of sense to me, and I've been a strong proponent for ranked choice voting. I'm actually a member of Voter Choice New Jersey, if any of you have heard of it. It is the premier ranked choice voting advocacy group in the state, and I've done a lot of good work there. But then from there, got to learn about a lot of other things. I'm a big believer in term limits. I would say that if after 12 years in Congress, you haven't accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, it's probably time to let someone else have a try. I'm also a big believer in banning congressional stock trading. When I got to learn that there are folks who are entering Congress and their net worth is roughly something like, let's say, $200,000, but then they leave 20 years later and their net worth is now $20 million, I'd like to know what their side gig was, because that's just insane. I got to learn about the impacts of lobbying. Fun fact, what percentage of members of Congress that retire end up becoming lobbyists? Let's see if anyone knows.
170.
It feels like 100. It's the average here, so it's roughly 80%. Which tells me something. How is it that 80% of former members of Congress who retire, who are meant to represent the people, end up as lobbyists? And there are some folks out there that literally walk across the street and they end up making 10 times what they were making in Congress. So that tells me that last term, maybe those last 2 terms, were really more of a job audition, right? And the interesting thing is that if you look in a lot of these cases, you'll actually see that some of the legislation that some of these people who retired help push are in the interest of where they end up working. And to me, that is unacceptable. And it's why I believe in a lifetime ban on members of Congress becoming lobbyists.
Yes.
So we need term limits, we need ranked choice voting, we need to ban congressional stock trading, we need a lifetime ban on members of Congress becoming lobbyists. But I would say that all of those are important. There's really one overarching stain on our democracy, and that is Citizens United.
Yeah.
Citizens United, in some way, shape, or form, has been highly, highly responsible and involved with a lot of the things that's wrong in our country. Whether you're looking at our broken healthcare system, or you're looking at the cost of housing, if you look at the attack on reproductive rights have been under attack in this country for a very long time. But it wasn't until Citizens United that the attack exacerbated and led to the overturning of Roe. And I think that in this country, we need to end Citizens United. We need to make sure that we do not have dark money groups or special interests using billionaire money to buy their way to power so they can put their interest above everyone else's. And so look, from there I expanded and evolved. I got involved in helping a lot of Democrats across the district and even out of the district to win, right? I've probably met a lot of you, whether it's canvassing or fundraising or driving volunteers, but I've done a lot of great work with helping Democrats, specifically Democrats in red areas, win. We had a lot of success on that. And now I'm running for Congress. And as much as I love to admit this, or hate to admit this better yet, when I started this race, I knew that I was an underdog. And I knew that it would take a lot of work to build a strong campaign. And I'm proud to say that in spite of not being the establishment's choice, in spite of not being the candidate that's desired by the party bosses, I have emerged as a front runner in this race. We've raised over $1.8 million. What I am particularly proud of is the coalition that we've built. We have built the largest coalition of anyone in this race. We have been endorsed by over 80 Democratic leaders spanning the entire ideological spectrum, ranging from leaders like Mayor Baraka and Patricia Campos Medina to Democrats that are winning in Trump double-digit areas. And it's going to take a broad coalition to win in the general, and I'm the only one that's built that in the primary. So, with that being said, let's open it up to questions, because I could go on for another 20 minutes. Thank you.